Hey, everybody, and welcome to the eighth episode of the Music Nook podcast, where me and my friend Jaden discuss albums that are near and dear to our hearts. This week it is Jaden's turn, and they are going to be talking about The Secret Life of Plants, a 1979 album by Stevie Wonder.
Yep. Um, this is generally, as far as I'm aware, considered to be one of, if not the most experimental album that Stevie Wonder has released, and it is the first Stevie Wonder album that Eve has listened to in full. So
Hmm.
I'm curious how that went for her. Um, Aside from that, this album, I didn't know this until I researched it for this podcast, but this album was an inspiration for When I Get Home by Solange, an
Mm.
album that we've listened to for this podcast before. Solange named Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants as an influence. Um, this album, how many times did you listen to this album?
Just once. It was pretty long.
Okay, that is entirely fair. I do not blame you for only listening to it once, but it's one that actually benefits from multiple listens, in my opinion, because partially because there's a lot of musical foreshadowing. There's like melody, like the instrumental tracks will usually be made up of made up at least partially of parts that come back later in the album, um, like melodies uh, that become vocal melodies later and stuff like that. Um,
Mm.
this album was made to go along with a documentary of the same name, and it's the documentary is largely basically lost media online, at least now. It's hard to find the documentary in full. I haven't been able to find the full thing. I haven't looked super hard though, so maybe it's out there, and I think that physical copies of it still exist. But I would really love to watch the documentary. Um,
Yeah.
but this is an album that contains a lot of instrumentals, but lyrically has a lot of themes about plant life and about plants. Um, and it's an album that really hits home for me, uh, just because of I love it musically and lyrically. I love the themes that it has regarding uh, plants and humans' treatment of plants and that sort of thing. Um, I think we can get into it more track by track, but I really love this album. Also, you're not sharing your screen, by the way.
Oh. Screen Wonder share.
Now you'll. Yeah, this is the first. Oh, wait. This is Secret Life of. This is the track Secret Life
Oh,
of
this is the
Plants.
last track.
This is not
Yeah.
the first one. Yeah, it's not. Oh, yeah, it's the last one with lyrics. The first one with lyrics is Same Old Story. Earth's creation. Do you remember the differences between any of the instrumentals, or I can just rattle them off pretty quickly?
Yeah, you can rattle them off.
Okay, this one is a very dramatic sounding opening. Uh, it's not my favorite of the instrumentals on here, but it's a very fun opening. I think it's kind of, if anything, maybe one of the cheesier sounding songs on here, but I think it's very fun and it's grown on me since I first listened to this album. So that's all I really have to say about the first track. Stevie Wonder played a lot of the instruments on this album. He didn't play every instrument on here, but he played a very large amount of instruments on here, by the way. The first garden is another instrumental. It's a lot more sparse. It's harmonica and bells or some kind of chime sounding instrument for a lot of it. It's a very beautiful sounding instrumental track. Uh, this is, I think that the first three. tracks, all being instrumental, they get progressively better, in my opinion. This is my second favorite of the three instrumental openers, and then Voyage to India, the next song, is my favorite of the three. Yeah, Voyage to India is a very pretty song that features a lot of instrumental callbacks. Um, I don't remember all of them, unfortunately, but uh, this track is very good. That's all I really have to say about it. The next one, Same Old Story, actually has the lyrics, so there might be more to talk about.
I found a documentary from 1979 called The Secret Life of Plants. It says music
Mm-hmm.
written by Stevie
That's
Wonder.
it.
I can send you the link if you want.
That's it. Is it on YouTube?
It is on archive.org,
Oh, okay. Maybe they have it.
and it's only
I
slightly
haven't looked for
longer.
it super in depth.
It's only slightly. I found it on Bing. Um, it's only slightly longer than the runtime of the documentary is only slightly longer than the runtime of the LP. So I'm guessing that
Oh
this
yeah, it's a
album
long
like
album.
literally is just the soundtrack. Like it's not like
That
one
would
of
be
them.
cool.
It's not like one of the like the kind of modern soundtracks where there's stuff that was actually included in the movie, and then there's a whole bunch of like other stuff that's like bonus. Like this seems like it actually is the literal soundtrack to the documentary because they're almost the same length.
It might be. When I say it's lost media, I could actually be entirely wrong about that. That might be an entirely wrong thing that I said, but
That's
I thought that
fine.
it was.
Yeah, I think I found out. Obviously, we can't watch it and check right now, but it says 1979, The Secret Life of Plants, and then music by Stevie Wonder. So I'm assuming without having watched it.
All right, then. Fair enough. I'd be glad to check it out
Yeah, me too.
another time. What were your thoughts on the three instrumental openers? Even if you don't
Um,
remember them that particularly,
they
just
sound very creative. Um, they sound like something that like they don't sound high budget, but they sound very creative. Like it sounds like there was like a lot of usage of like um attainable synthesizers, if that makes sense. Um,
yep.
but they sound like very creative and like well put together, and it sounds like they sound like I was like imagining like a documentary sort of like playing as the LP was playing, and obviously like they make great like music for a documentary.
Mhm. Yeah. I remember reading on Wikipedia that uh, something like the composers like sent Stevie Wonder the like original movie theme, and he would build the song. He would build songs around what was sent to him, or something like that. I could be. I don't remember all of the details of it. I can pull up the Wikipedia on my end to just check that, but not a big deal. We can continue.
Hello, flower boy, do you look juicy?
Oh yeah, this track was weird. How do you? I really like that this is the second track with vocals on the album. Um, it's a really weird song about a bug getting eaten by a Venus flytrap, and I think that it's uh, kind of humorous that it's so early on in the album when it's such a like bizarre sounding song. I like it. It doesn't include the last vocals, which is doesn't include the lyrics to someone who sounds like Stevie Wonder's daughter going, "Why did how did the flower eat the bug, Daddy?" And Stevie Wonder was like, "Knew you were gonna ask that." By closing its lips and swallowing it.
Yeah, I remember that. I don't think that's how it
Yeah,
works, but cute still.
it works. It works.
Hey, I know Sono.
Mhm.
Interesting. I did not catch the Japanese chorus on this song.
Yeah, this song is a very pleasant song musically. Uh, I didn't really catch the lyrics very much with this song when I listened to the album, but yeah, I like this song. Seasons feature one thing that I remember about this song that I only noticed on re-listening to it for this podcast is that there's a uh, bit of foreshadowing. There's like a sample that plays of the next song, Power Flower, during this song at one point. Um, you can like hear it foreshadowing the next song, and I really
That's
liked
cool.
that. The next song, this is mostly an instrumental song, but the next song on the album, Power Flower, might be my favorite song on the album, and is one of my favorite songs personally, just in general.
From what I remember, I would say it's also one of my favorite songs on the album.
Power Flower or Seasons?
Power Flower.
Yeah, this features Stevie Wonder singing in a very high pitched falsetto that I've watched. I've tried to watch a bunch of videos on. I've watched a lot of videos containing this song, Power Flower, or covers of this song, or live performances of this song, just because I like this song so much. So I tried to find anything related to it, and it seems that people reacting to this song are often surprised at the higher pitched voice that Stevie goes for and are surprised to hear that it's him. And yeah, it's a very good vocal performance. And I love that the flower chorus comes in so late in the song, but it's so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the drum fills on this song. They're very, they're all, they all feel unique and different. And uh, I love the chord progression. I love the progression, the instrumentation of this song. The drums are very punchy in general on this song, and the electric piano sounds amazing. Uh, I really love everything about this song.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not fully realize it was Stevie Wonder singing here.
Yeah, entirely fair. Another instrumental, and this one obviously being foreshadowing for Send One Your Love, the first track of disc two. Um, this is another pretty good instrumental that just makes the album fun to listen to, in my opinion. I recommended this album because I'd just been re-listening to it over and over so much that it just felt like the natural thing to recommend, even though it's kind of a weird choice because of how much of it is instrumental for this podcast. But I thought it could be fun to go over.
Race babbling.
Yep, this is one of the more Stevie Wonder often has more politically conscious lyrics in his songs, and this is one of the songs that is maybe the most like that on this album in terms of something at least not necessarily directly related to plants.
Seems to be a heavy emphasis on rhyming. Almost, it kind of the rhyming style on the song kind of like reminds me of the rhyming style on "When My Guitar Gently Weeps" by the Beatles. How there seems to be almost like an emphasis on the words rhyming more so like the lyrics themselves making 100% sense almost seems to be like an afterthought to making sure everything rhymes. Man's production, life's corruption, world destruct. God's induction, life's construction, these instruct. You know, but obviously it still does make sense. You
Mhm.
just kind of have to like analyze and think about each line, you know, to kind of make it make sense.
Yeah, yeah. There's one part where it's like the world is moving, this world is moving much too fast. There's space traveling, which just feels still relevant today. Like the idea of moving on from the earth before we fix the problems here. And um, I like this song a lot. It's like 9 minutes, and I think that it fully justifies its length lyrically and musically,
The
even by
race
being
babbling,
very repetitive.
the race
Go
babbling
ahead.
line is interesting to me because we're currently in our current unit in my cultural anthropology class going over how race is a social construct. Um, and we're getting really deep into all of the fallacies that underlie race as a concept. You know, the most notable of which being how the human characteristics that are chosen to, you know, be pertinent to the conversation of race, like what characteristics like are relevant when determining someone's race, are incredibly superficial and also incredibly what's the word I'm looking for? What's it called when something is just like fuck, it's on the tip of my tongue. Huh. Well, they're incredibly superficial, and there's nothing that necessarily justifies their being considered more impressive traits than other traits, besides the fact that these traits are easily visible. So traits that are often considered to be relevant to somebody's race are, you know, their hair, their skin color, the shape of their nose. And the only thing that makes those traits special is that they're immediately easily visible, which makes discrimination easier. Um, uh, you could just as easily say that somebody's race should be based off of the size and shape of their liver or the type of earwax they produce. Um, but we don't do that because those traits aren't easily visible. That's one of the most important fallacies, but you know, that's one of many reasons why the concept of race is just like, you know, completely it matters a lot more than it should, I think, in day-to-day life. Obviously there's a place for it in conversations around social justice, but outside of that, like, you know, in an ideal world, the concept of the human race being divided up into separate races wouldn't have ever been invented, or at least wouldn't have ever caught on so hard. So like having, you know, currently learning that in my class, hearing the term race babbling and Stevie Wonder talking about how this world is moving much too fast, or race babbling, like it's almost like he might be making a commentary on like the concept of race and just how it's holds too much of a place in like day-to-day life, especially in 1979. That's just one
Mhm.
interpretation of the term race babbling. He could be making a commentary on just like how fundamentally stupid just like the idea of making race matter so much in day-to-day life is.
Mhm.
Arbitrary, that's the word I was looking for. Um,
Arbitrary. Yeah.
Now we have Send One Your Love, the lead
This
single.
is a bit of a
Peaked
tone
at number
shift. This is the
4.
most popular song on the album. Yeah, this is the most popular song on the album. Um, I think it's interesting how plants are used in this song. Uh, like just the send someone your love with roses. Uh, it seems interesting given the themes that show up more explicitly in other songs on this album about how humanity uses plants. But I think that it fits for the song very well, and it's a very catchy song, and I see why it's the most popular on the album. It's the opener of disc 2 as well, with Race Babbling being the closer of disc 1.
I love how it's divided perfectly in half. I also love the message of this song as well.
Mhm. It is very
And I
good.
also like the gender neutrality. I love how he addresses, obviously, like it's still like a strict gender binary with like not much self inclusion of anything else, but like obviously it's 1979, you can't really expect that. Um, but I like how he addresses men and women equally with when it comes to like this message of encouraging people to demonstrate their love. It's pretty cool.
Mhm. I like it, definitely. Outside My Window is one of the catchiest songs on the album to me. The la 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 part, uh, which I'm not going to sing the whole thing of. It's a long melody, but it's very catchy. And then the actual lyrical parts, it's a very sweet song, uh, comparing someone to a flower, basically, um, or nature itself to, or maybe not even comparing, it might just literally be about loving nature itself. But I think that there are more interpretations of this song, and musically, I think it's very fantastic. The bass on this song is fantastic. Black Orchid is a very good song as well. Uh, this is another. It seems like Disc Two at least start. I'm looking through it now. Disc Two at least starts out more with more traditional songs than instrumentals. Comparing it, it looks like it does have more traditional songs to it than instrumentals compared to Disc One. But this song seems to be a very good uh, track regarding. I'm not 100% sure what it's about. I haven't looked at the lyrics that much for this one. But what do you make of it?
A flake of snow within a storm, a new way waiting to be born, in a world with need of change, a touch of love in fear of hate, a rushing wind that's asked to wait for the promises of rain, a pearl of wisdom entrapped by poverty, she gives me love with purity, filling minds with hopeful schemes to build worlds enhanced by peace. Draped in sparkling morning dew, she expresses life anew. From the earth beneath her feet, she is a flower that glows. In lovability, she's femininity. It might be about femininity, judging from that how it ends. And if it is, then like I mean I don't I'm kind of tend to be like a what's it called, like a I forget what the term is, but like I like holding I think masculinity and femininity, even though masculinity can have more toxic traits to it, are in their ideal form, both necessary to human interaction and complement each other very well. Again, at least in their ideal form. Um, but say, like, talking about what's good about femininity doesn't necessarily have to take away from what's good about masculinity. There's nothing wrong to devoting a song to it. Um, but yeah, if this is about femininity, then it makes these lyrics later on in the song a little bit more potent. Like, why did they criticize when they knew your love could cast its spell and consecrate their eyes? Um, why do you linger in space when you know in every heart that beats you hold a special place? If the song is like about femininity, then that's like a really, really deep, uh, it's a very, very deep ode to femininity. Basically talking about how important it is and everything, um,
Mhm.
and how powerful it is, and how subjugated it is despite that.
I think that's a very good interpretation. I like that a lot, and it helps me to appreciate the song lyrically now more so, and I always appreciated it musically. I think this is one of the like higher charting songs on the album as well.
Ecclesiastes, is that how you say it? Ecclesiastes? Yeah.
Yep. Another instrumental. This one features a lot of organ. It's another pretty instrumental on the album. I like all of the instrumentals. Uh, I can pretty much by this point I can tell them all apart by title. Um, I don't have a lot to say about this one though.
This does kind of a similar thing that Power Flower did.
Oh, SAA, Lolo Day. I never realized what that translated to. That makes a lot of sense actually as a part of the album. I always liked this track a lot.
A seed is a star makes sense. A star is a seed is a little bit harder to comprehend.
I think it's perhaps the idea that it's made up of the same uh, stuff at the end of the day.
Mm, very true. Come back as a flower. If only I could determine what I come back as.
This track is beautiful. This is another one of my favorites on the album. Then I wish that I could come back as a flower. It's a very catchy melody to me and a very memorable sentiment.
To spread the sweetness of love. Aw.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
it.
it's cool.
That was
I
not
want to
meant to
watch
make
this.
fun of you or anything.
No, 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 you're good. I need to write this down to what's it to watch. I need to put this on my movies list to watch this documentary.
Mhm.
Secret Life of Plants.
This is the live sounding. This is the live recorded song, which I like.
Oh, this was literally live recorded. I thought they just kind of like did like a thing where they just like made it
They
sound
might
live
have just
recorded.
done a thing. They might have had just that's just how it sounds.
Oh, is this a like a Black Power song? I didn't notice that the first time I was
I think
listening
a
to
lot
it.
of this album, at least partially, is.
Huh. In myself I do contain the elements of sun and rain. First a seed with roots that swell, I gradually burst through my shell, pushing down into the ground, the root of me is homeward bound. A trunk, a leaf, and there I am, a miracle by of least by far. Tree, you are the longest. Oh, so the where people black is your night. It could be like a double entendre if I'm using that word correctly, or just like have a double meaning that refers to both black people as well as like the dark color of tree bark. Because it definitely does seem to be talking about trees later on here in the song.
Mhm. I could see that.
Now the title track, the third to last song on the album.
The lyrics of this song are very important, I think. I think this is maybe the most thematically important song on the album.
Can't conceive the nucleus of all begins inside a tiny seed, and what we see is insignificant provides the purest air we breathe. Very true. But who am I to doubt or question the inevitable being? For these are but a few discoveries we find in the secret life of plants. That could almost be like something the narrator says. A species
Mhm.
smaller than the eye can see, or larger than most living things, and yet we take from it without consent our shelter, food, habiliment. But who am I to doubt or question the inevitable being? For these are but a few discoveries we find in the secret life of plants. But far too many give them in return a stomp, cut, drown, or burn, as if they're nothing. But if you ask yourself where would you be without them, you would find you would not. And some believe antennas are their leaves that spans beyond our galaxy. They've been there and probably will be, who are the mediocrity. They've been, they are, and probably will be, who are the mediocrity. But who am I to doubt or question the inevitable being? For these are but a few discoveries to try the secret life of plants. I mean, I I feel like how we treat plants is sometimes necessary, but also there is a lot of obviously like unnecessary destruction of the natural environment, especially as it regards like massive corporations and their production of consumer goods. Involves a
Mhm.
lot of poison and destruction.
Mhm. I am
If you believe in
a
karma, which
highly
I tend to lean away from believing in karma, but if you believe in karma and you believe in group karma, then that's bad karma that humanity is sowing and reaping. Um, I don't think karma exists though. Too many bad
Mhm.
people who are flourishing.
Yeah. I am a highly empathetic person, and I have found that I think about plants a lot and our relationship with plants. I've having done a lot of research into it. It seems that there's actually traditions in the religion of Jainism, for example, if that's how you pronounce it. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Regarding the idea that you wouldn't eat root vegetables because that's considered to have the soul of the plant within it. They were vegan
Mm,
as well, or vegetarian at least. Um, and it's interesting to find many different traditions regarding how we ought to treat plants. I think that in the United States society, there what Stevie Wonder talks about here, well, people treating plants as if they're absolutely nothing, is very true and rings through for a lot of people. And I think that
mm,
there were a lot of reviews of this album that were very negative on the themes of it and like said that they were very uh, jumbled and that they didn't make that much sense. But I don't really agree with that. I think that uh, there were more positive reviews, of course, than negative reviews. But um, I just think that what he's talking about in this song is very clear, like regarding taking from plants without consent, like humanity's inability to properly communicate with plants, and yet our assumption that, well, we're just more important than them. And um, I think that that's not to say that we should view plant life as always more important than humanity or anything, but that there ought to be, there at the very least ought to be uh, highly considered, highly reconsidered the way that we treat them on average, the way that we treat the natural world around us. Uh, a lot of this strangely has to do with, or I say strangely, but has to do with how I viewed disability and liberation for people with disabilities, that um, me being autistic and schizophrenic, like that there's a lot of assumptions made about me by people with more social capital than people like me tend to have. And um, I think that that can often be harmful, and people kind of make assumptions about schizophrenic or about autistic people that are harmful to them, and just kind of disregard our uh, I don't know how to
Humanity,
say in, individuality, intelligence. What did you say?
humanity.
Yeah, that as well. And I think
Sometimes
that
disregard our. Sorry, go ahead.
you can go ahead.
Sometimes they disregard our disability as well. I found that
Oh yeah,
say what you want about dividing autistic people into level one, two, and three, but as somebody who's been diagnosed with level one autism, my psychiatrist told me that her daughter, who also is diagnosed with level one autism, often finds that despite the fact that she has autism and has everything that comes with autism, people around her aren't as empathetic because she presents as being closer to the quote unquote norm. And sometimes, if you're an autistic or schizophrenic or schizoaffective or whatever person that, you know, maybe because of the way that your symptoms manifest, is able to sort of blend in a bit more, you're seen as almost like having this like responsibility or imperative to act as normal as possible and strive to meet the standards of neurotypical people. So sometimes, even the disability itself and all of the extra empathy and extra room and grace that should be granted to it is disregarded based off of how you present, on the surface.
exactly. That is very true. Um, and for me, where that is relevant for this album is that um, I think that that kind of leads me to empathize with plants somewhat, because they are living things and we just kind of disregard them entirely. And I think that there's a degree to which we ought to have more respect for them as alive and existing in a way that we can't, we might not necessarily be able to wrap our heads around fully. And we ought to accept that and have greater respect for the world around us in general. But I think that there's a lot that societally discourages that. But I hope that uh, generations of this generation and people around me can learn to appreciate the world around them more.
Yeah, I think that in general we need to have a more sustainable relationship with the environment, and oftentimes crafting a more sustainable relationship um intrinsically includes crafting a more equal relationship. Not even all the
Mhm,
time, probably definitely like all the time. Or not even most of the time, rather, definitely like all the time.
mhm,
Yeah, I really liked this album. Definitely one of the better, primarily instrumental albums, one of the better soundtracks I've ever heard. Um,
mhm.
I'm not too big on instrumental only music, but this is among the instrumental only music I've listened to. This is among the best for sure.
Yeah, this is, like I said, one of Stevie Wonder's most experimental albums, if not his most experimental ever. Um, like most of the time, his music is not mostly instrumental, and it's highly possible that I'll recommend another one of his albums in the future, at least once. Um, but I hope that this album, even if you don't re-listen to the entire thing, I would recommend re-listening to the whole thing just because I think that it's a good meditative sort of experience. There's a lot of themes explored by it that I think are interesting and important that don't really get talked about very much. There's a lot of lyrics worth returning to and diving into, and musically, I think that it's a consistently fantastic album. But at the very least, I hope that there's some highlights on here that you'll find yourself returning to here and there. The last two tracks are also instrumental, so
Oh
that
yeah, I
might not
forgot
be
about this.
a lot. Yeah,
That is
finale
pretty long,
features
isn't
a
it?
lot. I don't remember how long it is, but yeah, it's 650. It is pretty long. This one features a lot of musical callbacks to the album, to songs previously in the album, and Tree is one of my favorite instrumentals on the album. But that's about all there is to say about it track by track.
Oh yeah, you got anything else?
Um, Let me check my notes, but I don't think so. I think that yeah, that's about everything.
All
Have
right.
you got anything
Well,
to
thank
say?
you. No, no, that's about it for me. Um, Thank you guys for tuning in to yet another episode of the Music Nook. We really appreciate every view. Um, we will
Don't
be
forget to
back
like and
next
subscribe
week. Yeah, of course. Like and subscribe, please. Um,
and
and
share and
next
comment.
week, yeah, and comment. We'd love to hear your comments. Um, unless they're anything even remotely critical, then we don't want to hear from you. I'm just joking. But yeah, next week we are going to be doing uh the last non-Manson album from me for a while. Because I'm gonna do a few
Oh dear,
Manson albums in a row after this next record.
oh
Um,
dear.
but the
I look forward to it.
huh? What'd you say?
I look forward to it. I look forward to it.
This last non-Manson record that I'm putting forth though is one of my favorite gangster rap albums of all time. Probably in my top five gangster rap albums of all time. It's called Brentwood by Polo Boy Nunu. And I can send you the name in the Discord. But it's a I think it's a mostly DIY album from what I can tell. I don't think there was a huge team behind it, but despite the fact that it's really just the rapper and the engineer and a producer and maybe a couple people doing post-production, they managed to create a really, really fantastic sounding gangster rap album. And when I was living in a hotel because I didn't have an apartment to live in earlier last year, that was a really tough time in my life. And this album got me through that time, like this album specifically. So Brentwood by Polo Boy Nunu. We're going from an album from Stevie, a wholesome album from Stevie Wonder about plants, to an album where there's a lot of lyrics about killing people. But that's how it do be going. But we'll see y'all
Fair enough.
next week for that. Um, Peace. Thanks for watching.
Peace.